This is Recruitment Agency Ignition with Andy Whitehead. Helping you build your recruitment employment business fast. Using digital and automation and one-to-many systems, tools, and inbound strategies.
So welcome to this week's Inner Circle call. So on the screen you can see our lovely Laura Anderson. So Laura's going to come on the call shortly. So Laura is what I call a lurker, and that's said with love. So Laura is so got three types of member. We've got the member who we hear from daily, weekly, get metrics, ask for help, etc., share wins, bam, bam, bam. Secondly, we get the member who will come on the calls, the Tuesday's calls, will come on the Thursday calls, and they will now and again pop up with either something for review, but it's not a daily thing, it's not a weekly thing, but they're sort of fairly active. Then we get a lurker. A lurker is a member who is possibly on the calls, and I can see they're there, and they're just heavy breathing. They're heavy breathing, and Laura, I'm talking about you. And then out of the blue, we'll get a message. This has happened. So Leo is a prime example. Laura is a prime example. And what will happen is it'll be a message saying, oh, by the way, I've added 250K this quarter. It's the most I've ever earned. Or I've doubled the business by using this strategy. What do I do next? And it'll come out of the blue. It might be a month, 3-month gap. And then this will happen. And they'll take one piece of advice, or they'll come on a call with one question, and they'll run with it. So Laura is one of those. And it's said with love. So what Laura's really, really good at is isolating what her constraint is. So we've got a session inside the members area called Crushing the Constraint. And what Laura will do, she will look at her current position and the opportunity. So in her space, she'll share shortly, getting the candidates on board is key. But she'll ask a question around, how do I fix this particular constraint? And the constraint is what's in front of her right now. So rather than getting focused on a complete overhaul of the business, Laura will look at, right, so in September, this is happening, the vets are graduating, I've got 2 months, what can we put in place to actually leverage that month, September? And she'll take the strategy, and often with Laura, we've done these things live on the call, and we'll come up with something completely new, and she'll take it and run with it. Now, what's interesting with Laura is this. Laura posted in the chat box a few weeks ago, and what she posted in the chat box was, I've done the same revenue in the first 2 months of this year that I did in the previous entire year. Now, what's really interesting is this. She doubled her business in her first year with the Inner Circle. So when I got that little message in the chat box, that's typical Laura. It's oh, by the way, this has happened. It's like, what? Epic. So the reason why it excites me is twofold. Number one, when you've got a process or a strategy that's converting, outside looking in, often we can see how to scale it 2, 3, 4, 5x by making a few tweaks and actually remove 80% of what you're doing. So, for example, someone might be doing 5 different strategies, and then we look at the metrics, like drop these 4, focus on just this one for the next 90 days. So Laura's done some epic things. She posted that in the chat box, and I was, oh, well done, Laura. Awesome. So we had a quick chat. And I want Laura on the hot seat today for really 3 things. One is, I want you to listen to her shift. So Laura, by nature, is a very positive person. And we just had a quick chat before coming on the call, and I've asked her, please be miserable. And what I mean by that is this. When you listen to a hot seat, those of you on the call now, some of you are doing awesome things and you're delighted. But most of you, even if you've doubled your business or trebled your business, you're still frustrated, because that's the avatar of our members. They always want more, which is great. I said to Laura, I want you to do 3 things. One is I want you to share where you were when you joined the Inner Circle. Just so those of you on the call now can hear from, quote, the horse's mouth, and Laura loves horses, which I come to, about the frustration that you're feeling. She's been there. So I wanted to share where she was. But again, please note that Laura's not going to come on here and be monotone and be suicidal. She is the most upbeat person I think I've met inside the Inner Circle. So I've asked her to be miserable, to set the tone where she was. The second thing I want to do is share where she is today. So, as I said, doubled the business then same revenue in the first 2 months of this year. So basically just give us a minute or two on where she is now. And the reason for that is I want you guys on the call now inside the inner circle to go, shit, I know those you members now inside the group, once you're inside the group and you see all these people that you see online, these are real living people and these metrics do happen. But I want you to take it on board that the shift can happen. The second thing I want you to get on board is this. What I mentioned at the top of the call is Laura doesn't take the mindset of, I need to change everything now. Everything needs to change right now. So-and-so's running this and they got this metric. Oh, shit, it's not working. Laura's taking the view of step by step. So members inside the inner circle now on the call, those who've been with me for more than 3 years, you'll relate to this. You'll relate, it's a journey. It might be the first year getting to whatever your number is, 300. Next year's getting to 700. Next year's getting to 1.2. Whatever your numbers are. But it's taking that view that you're actually building a business here. So what Laura will do again is she'll focus on the constraint that's in front of her. And she won't pressurize herself and say everything needs to be perfect. And so-and-so's running this. No, what do I need in my business? So we're going to be focusing on some of the strategies she's used. Second part. Third part of the call, what we're going to do is this, and we haven't prepped this in any way, we're going to plan out Laura's next 90 days. So Laura's going to give her story of how she's got to where she is now, but then warts and all, she's going to share her frustrations on what she needs now in the next 90 days. So we're going to create a plan for the next 90 days based on what she needs. And I don't know what that is yet, but we're about to find out what it is. So we're going to do 3 things, guys. So with the hot seat maximizer, what I want you to do is this. As we go through this hot seat with Laura, I want you to listen to the insight she's sharing. So this is the frustration, this is the constraint. What action did we use? Then how can you apply it to your business? Now, I've said this many times. If we did 1 hot seat a month, next week we got a hot seat with Brandt's team on how they've taken the CEO C-suite model, or C-suite avatar, and applied it with the double R model and some other bits and pieces and done some astounding things. I think Christian had 25 appointments in Australia or something crazy. Brand new business. So we've got a hot seat next week, but a completely different hot seat. So if you took, say, 12 hot seats a year from members who are doubling, trebling their business, if you took just those hot seats and took those insights, you've got absolute gold. So my job is to create the strategy, improve it works, then give it to you and ensure you implement it. However, on a hot seat, you're listening to real people that have gone through the pain you're going through. So please don't use this as a session to sit back and, quote, be inspired, or sit back and say, well, I can't do it. Because that's, quite frankly, you're fucking up your own business. A hot seat is giving you the tools of application. So the strategies that we've created are being applied. So please listen to what Laura's sharing, but also think about how you can apply this in your business. So as we go through, what I'm going to do is pause now and again and check for questions in the chat box. So in the chat box, capital Q, what your question is, or capital I, what's your insight? So what's the insight you've taken from Laura? So with that said, let's do this. Let me unmute Laura, and guys, you should be able to see my iPad. So Laura, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Andy. Hi, everybody.
Laura, that's too happy. I told you to be miserable. Well, let's do this first off then. So just to make sure everyone can hear you, let everyone know where does your love from horses come from and how many hours a week do you spend with your horses?
My love from horses started when I was very young. It's a family tradition.
Yeah.
And I ride pretty much every day 2 horses. And then I show in Florida. I compete as a show jumper. So when I'm showing, I can be gone 4 or 5 days a week.
So Laura, every time I speak to Laura, guys, just so you can visualize it, I visualize like Little House on the Prairie, with like horses running around with their own ranch, and all day she's riding, and now and again she's on the phone doing a little bit of work. But Laura's going to be humble because that's how she is. But Laura actually doesn't, quote, put work first, maybe. Is that fair enough, Laura? It's very much about a balance for you. And I want you guys to pick up on what Laura's sharing with you. So first off, Laura, most people are actually not going to know you because you're a lurker. You're one of those weird ones, Laura. But also those that come on the calls on a Tuesday when you've asked questions, etc., they will know you. But first off, just give us 2 minutes on who's Laura and what's your business? Who's your client? Who's your candidate?
Sure. So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, competitive equestrian, and a business owner. I work I work part-time.
Yep.
And I always have. My business is recruiting veterinary specialists, and it's a very small niche.
Yep.
So a lot of things that we do, I have to abbreviate, but so maybe there are about 6,000 or so as veterinary specialist.
Yep.
And that's a small market.
Very competitive niche, isn't it? Very small, very narrow.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. So
and that's a lot different than a veterinarian. So these doctors have gone to veterinary school, and then they've done a residency for 2 or 3 years. So when they finish and start practicing, they're 10, 11 years out with an education, 10, 11 years.
Yeah, these candidates, guys, just so you know, these are like absolute gold dust. So many of you on the call now saying it's difficult to get candidates or et cetera, et cetera. None of you should really have that problem at all anyway. Laura's at the real sharp end of that curve. So let's do this then, Laura. First off, I just want to get some context around where we were. So as we were just speaking, I remember our very first conversation, and we had an alignment, didn't we? We felt energies, man, and all that stuff. But going back to when maybe just before you came into the inner circle, could you just give a picture of your business? So again, because you are Miss Positive, but what I want members to get is even Laura, who's doubled and revenue again in the first 2 months of this year, even though you work part-time, when we go back to just before you joined the inner circle, what was going on at that time? What was maybe the frustrations in the business, or what was not right in the business at the time? What needs to change?
Well, I had an incredible client base, and I've always had an incredible client base. And I had a tremendous amount of business. I just could not find candidates.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was, again, I had a young child, and so I had left investment banking. I wanted to do something to keep my mind going and stay in the business world, but I did not want to work full time.
Yeah.
But it was so frustrating because there was so much opportunity, and I just could not find veterinary specialists. And recruiting was completely new. I was the first one to kind of to start a firm for recruiting specialists.
Yeah.
And so it's very frustrating. And then what made it even worse was another firm started, and I was really mad because I had kind of botched my opportunity to be to take advantage of the market. And then they grew. I could see them growing because they were hiring associates, and I wasn't. And I understood that they were full time, but it still I was really disappointed in myself, and I was really frustrated. And then at the time I did some research about what to do, and I came across your firm, and then we set up our first ignition call.
Yeah. So at that time then, so often we think someone else is coming into the niche, or we've got a competitor. The reality is we don't need to have 100 clients or 100 candidates to be doing over $1 million, do we? We need to hit our own figures. So the frustration you had at that time then was around the candidate side of it, getting the candidates. But what was the sort of the day-to-day frustration for you? So was it was it process? Was it spending time on LinkedIn? Was it doing it all yourself? Was it what was the actual real frustration?
Kind of all of the above. I was doing it myself. It was just me. I didn't know what a VA was. Yep. I just had no plan. I had no vision. I had no strategy. All I knew is where I wanted to be. I had no clue how to get there.
Got it. Okay. So yeah. we were rudderless then, as such.
Yeah.
At that time. Okay, good. So guys, so those on the call right now, so can you relate to this? You might be in the first week, you might be in the first year in a circle. But no matter when we get to the next phase, so for example, Christian's posting the chat box earlier, he's on the call next week. Now Brant's now thinking to year 3, Brant said. But even at that point, there's going to be times where you feel rudderless, and so you should do as we start to expand. But what I want you to get, guys, is how you're feeling, no matter where you are. We've all been there, and Laura's been there. So at that time then, we've got this need to get on top of getting the candidates, need to really create a business, but maintain working part-time. Now, if we fast forward to where we are today, this is literally going to be 2 minutes, Laura, okay? But if we fast forward to where we are today, Now, sometimes when we talk about metrics, either inside the group, and we got Philip. I'm giving you high, big love, Philip. Philip has joined the inner circle, but Philip spoke to I think about 3 or 4 of my team before speaking to me, and he was really pissed off. He was like, "When am I going to speak to Andy?" And the reason why we do that is to create barriers. We want to make sure we got the DNA of the group, pure, and the right people inside the group. But one thing Philip said was, "Yeah, it sounds like it might be bullshit, it might be a scam. These people don't exist, etc., etc." Which is funny because we all know we're inside the group. But what I want you to do is tell people that first year, if we focus on 2 things, Laura, okay? If we focus on metrics, i.e. what really matters, so revenue is what you're talking about before, so it's revenue. And then number 2, your time. So your key outcome was to still be a mum, still be a wife, still ride, etc. In year 1, what happened in terms of metrics? What happened in terms of time? So did time go up? Did it go down? I don't know the answer to that, by the way. But metrics, what happened in year 1, and what happened to your time?
So my time, really, I can't say that changed a whole lot. Probably, I was more serious and much more hopeful, but my revenues doubled the first year. And then and what our first strategy was webinars.
Yep.
And so what you said to me was, and I will never forget it, if you want different results, you've got to do something different.
Yep.
And that just resonated. I was like, okay. And I was scared about joining and nervous but that made sense to me. And I thought, well, we're just going to go for it. And so they doubled the first year, and
Yep.
then and this is my 3rd year, I think, that I've been in the group. And I have been a lurker, there's no question.
And you do heavy breathe, Laura. And the thing you posted inside the chat box, so we had a couple of people this year. Terry's another one. The first 2 months of this year, he's on the same profit he did profit, I believe, as all of last year. You posted in the chat box, first 2 months of this year, you've done what? So 2018, if you're watching back, first 2 months of this year, you did what?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
You did what? You did the same revenue, I believe you said, was it, in the first 2 months of this year you did last year?
Yeah, actually, it was more than that.
Well, it's gone up then.
Discover how to build your recruitment employment agency using one-to-many automation and inbound strategies before anyone else in your market specialization. Check out recruitmentmarketinginternational.com.